We are back on the Source, continuing to look at Port Dalhousie Ward in St. Catharines. Joining us now from the Port Dalhousie Conservancy, we have Hank Beekhuis. Welcome to the program today, Hank. With all of this development going on, you've been involved in this right from the get-go. Where do you feel we're standing right now with development in Port Dalhousie?
Well, as you know, Port Dalhousie is a pretty active waterfront community at the moment. Has a lot of potential, and condominium developers have figured that out. Right now, I think we're about maybe 30% into what I think will be a fairly long slog for the community. We've experienced, had some really rough times in the last 10 years, and with all the construction going on, particularly in Lakeside Park, the piers, and the condo that is going up at the moment, but there's a lot more to come. And I think for the community, it's going to be a long slog yet.
There's also construction to take place on Henley Island, which again adds more trucks, more people in the area doing all this kind of work. When all of this is taking place, and especially when you've been fighting with developers when it comes to plans for condo buildings, how has your relationship between the Conservancy and the city, how has that worked well and maybe not well in different places?
Well, I think currently everything has sort of been put on ice due to COVID, of course, because we can't meet in person. And so a lot of these discussions that were started have sort of just sat there for the last 6 months.
There's been a little bit of rebirth in Port Dalhousie with some new restaurants opening up as well. Does that seem like a positive sign to you?
Well, I think there are signs of hope. I mean, certainly the pier construction is going to be done by the end of the year, hopefully, at least on the west side, which will allow people to walk on the pier once again after all these years. And the condo development that's currently under construction will probably be done sometime next year. And we've seen some new businesses start. But I think we're in the middle of a fairly long, lengthy process of construction yet. I suspect at least for another 5 years.
With Tom Rankin taking over the Fortress Development's land, do you feel that might be a positive step, a step in the right direction? Someone local who might listen to your concerns?
I mean, we have some hope that there will be some positive developments. Unfortunately, I think a lot of this stuff is driven just by the dollars, and that's somewhat disappointing. But we're hopeful that at least we have someone who is going to listen, and we haven't seen much change yet, but we would certainly, it's better than having a Toronto developer.
You have two councillors for the ward of Port Dalhousie, Carlos Garcia and Bruce Williamson, and they bear the brunt of a lot of criticism sometimes from their peers on council, often being called anti-development. Do you think that's a fair assessment? And are you happy with the way Carlos and Bruce have fought for Port Dalhousie?
Well, I think they have represented Port Dalhousie very well, as far as I'm concerned. I think the whole anti-development moniker is really not fair to the community. The only thing the community has ever stood for was to really stand up for the bylaws as they were. Unfortunately, we have a situation where developers, and that's not just only in Port Dalhousie, but it's everywhere, that they tend to treat the bylaws and the secondary plans that we have as the floor rather than the ceiling, and so it's been a real struggle to try to contain them within the laws that protect the community.
Hank, thank you very much for joining us today and chiming in on what is going on in the ward.
Great, thank you very much.